Hey everybody, this is Justin Bogard from the Super E and J podcast, episode
5.
We're at 5 already?
5.
Yay!
Woohoo! Congrats, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then if you didn't know, this is our guest interview today, Vickie Perry. Vickie, say hi.
Hello. Oh, hi.
Yeah, there you go. So, I'm in real estate. Super E's in real estate. Vickie's in real estate. I specifically deal in note investing, so I'm buying mortgages, deeds of trust, land contracts, and I'm selling them as well. And Super E.
My company does all things Airbnb. Everything from rehabbing properties. We do all the hosting and property management. I do construction consults to optimize your Airbnb. Also, I do coaching and getting ready to do an online training program. And the only reason this phone is out is because it's my turn to be on call for the week. So if we have any guest issues or any major issues, this is the phone number that our guest gets. So I apologize, but if it rings, I will have to excuse myself.
Yeah, we need to get Super E a special assistant to cover the weeks that you have to be on call. So
No, because that's how you keep your feet on the ground and you know what's really going on by actually being there at 2 a.m.
Oh man,
And I have gotten those calls.
Yes.
yeah, I'm glad I don't have those calls. Well, Vickie, thanks for being our guest today. I'm really excited to interview you, and we're going to drill you with lots of specific questions, so I hope you're prepared.
I'm an ex-school teacher, so
Oh, okay.
I'm always
So there's
prepared.
no pressure for you. You're just like, I remember when I first met you. I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago. And
July of 2016.
man, you're right on it. She's right on it.
That's when it was.
That's impressive.
Because I remember where it was. That's how I know. It was at a speaker event.
Okay.
And so I know what month everyone spoke and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So that was kind of my first experience into Cyrea, the organization that you are the executive director of. And so I was looking for an outlet to do real estate, to learn more about real estate investing, fix and flipping, wholesaling, rentals, things like that I first got into. And I found your organization, and I was like, oh, wow, this is great. I didn't know there was a local club that could do this stuff. And I got in there, and I met you, and there was like 150 members, I think, at the time. And then that event that you actually met me at was the first time I got introduced to note investing. So that kind of changed my life and put me in a different path, and I'm so glad that I was there and was able to participate and move forward and take action on that opportunity, because I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for that. So thank you for setting my foundation and my path down to Bright Path Notes. So,
And that's actually, I use you as an example sometimes.
Me?
I do.
Ooh.
I do.
Yeah.
In fact, my son has been talking to you about doing notes.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling him the other day, I said, when I met Justin 3 years ago, he wasn't quite sure what direction he was going to go in. But when he went to that seminar or that workshop that we held with Note School, it just clicked.
Yep.
And I told him how you fell in love with the business, that part of the business, and how well you're doing today. So I'm proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to personally thank you and put it out there to everybody that this was the foundation that started me, not only in real estate, but transitioned to me into what I really want to do and I'm passionate about today, which is obviously note investing. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
So I'm sure you got a similar story or a path that involved Vickie. So
It did. And actually, when I moved to Indianapolis 2 years ago, I had briefly met Vickie at the main meeting. And then there was an issue.
With another member.
Yes. I was in a joint venture that was not going very well at all. And I talked to Vickie about it.
And we sat down and had, I think we had lunch that day, and I heard her side of what was going on. And then I knew one of the partners in another project the other person was involved in. So I contacted that person to see if this was just a you thing or if this. So I wasn't trying to be mean. I was just trying to do some background. And I think we helped to lead to a good resolution. And
Yes. Excellent resolution.
yeah. And that's one of the things that Cyrea does. By the way, it stands for Central Indiana Real Estate Investors Association.
that's a mouthful.
That is a mouthful.
So
Yeah.
Cyrea is just a much easier way to
It
say
is.
it. Yeah.
It's 30 years old, and it is a club full of landlords, Airbnbers, note people, flippers, land contract holders, different people doing different kinds of investing in real estate. And one of the things we try to do is not only give them classes to help them look at other strategies and continuing to do business the right way, but also to help them to meet other investors. And we try to do a good job of being the gold standard of the industry.
Yeah.
It's not always easy
Yeah.
because we don't always know what's going on out there. But if a member has a problem with another member, we try to help them to resolve the issue.
I like what you said earlier, and I'm sure you picked up on this too, was investing the right way. And that's one of the things that you always say and always promote, investing the right way, because there's a way, and we've all read newspaper articles and seen people in the orange jumpsuits that don't invest the right way, and they become the sheep of the industry, if you will, the black sheep of the industry.
And the sad part about that is they are such a small number, a small percentage of all of us. But they're the ones who get put in the news,
Yep.
and they're the ones that get focused upon by the legislators who are enacting new rules. And yes, there are some bad investors out there. We all know that. But 75% of all of the single-family homes in the state of Indiana are owned by small owners like you and me. Only 25% are owned by the big guys.
Yeah.
So what we don't do for our industry is toot our own horn. I mean, people don't realize how much power and how much control we really have in a community. So we don't voice how wonderful the majority of us are.
Yeah, you're right, because technically we are the 900-pound gorilla is the reference. But we aren't able to voice it, but we can when we have a community or a network or a committee or an organization such like Syria, and the other one that we'll talk about a little bit later that you're a part of that we're growing, helping you grow as well. Before we get into that, I kind of want to know a little bit of background on you. So I want the audience here, our subscribers, to know a little bit about Vickie Perry. So I know that you were a school educator, and I know that was your original passion, right? And then you kind of tell me how you got to real estate.
Well, we bought my husband. I was married for 40 years. I am a widow. And the very first house we bought was in Portland, Indiana, up between Fort Wayne and Richmond.
Okay.
Bought a little 3-bedroom, 1-bath house just around the corner from a golf course. Really nice little neighborhood. $22,000. I know. You guys can't even envision. But we moved in, and of course, I'm the kind of person that I can't go into a house without seeing things that need to make it prettier.
Right.
I have never owned a house or a condo that I didn't take out at least one wall. Never. And I always buy the ugliest one on the block. So I had it in me before even knowing that it was a way to make money. And we bought this house, we fixed it up, we put money into it. It was just adorable. And then my husband got transferred. So I needed to sell a house quickly, and we tripled our money in less than 2 years later.
Wow. That's incredible.
It was. So, but I saw, oh my gosh, the light bulb went off. So I have been in real estate in some way ever since then. And I hate to tell you when that was, but it was 1981.
Oh, goodness.
I know.
You are a seasoned investor. That's what we would call that, seasoned investor.
Thank you. That was very kind.
So, Supri, you need to ask her a question. What's the first thing that comes to mind?
Was your husband on board whenever you started doing real estate full time?
No.
And how did that?
It was a problem at times. Okay. Because when we were young, we didn't have the money to hire people to do things for us. And he had his own career. We both had really good careers. Mm-hmm. And he didn't want to do that kind of stuff. He didn't enjoy fixing toilets and I don't
know who does. I don't.
Well, he didn't.
Yeah.
So, but he hung in there.
Okay.
And one time, with one of the condos that we bought down in Florida, and it was one that we actually moved into. And so, and I've done a lot of house hacking in my time. And my poor children, I think my youngest son, I believe, is 43, and he's probably lived in 25 different places.
Wow.
Yeah. And he's in the business. So he loves it. Now, my oldest son, he does not love it. So, you never know what kind of psyche you're going to affect with your children. But, what was I? Oh, so we had a condo, and I wanted to redo the kitchen. Well, then I decided that means I need to also redo the floors because it was a condo, and
Oh.
So we were living on the floor of the lanai, which is in Florida. That's the screened-in porch. We were living in that for about 4 months, and he said, "That's it. From now on, any of these that you do, you're going to hire them done." And so for the rest of our married life, I had to pay people to do the things that he wouldn't do.
You had to live out there with the gators?
Yeah, and we did have gators. We were down in, this was halfway between Marco Island and Naples. And so it was common to see gators on the streets.
That just, for us Indiana folk or Midwesterners, it's like so foreign. It's like you can't imagine seeing a gator just walking across or just being in this is their family, right?
Yeah,
Just
I
walk
miss
out there.
it.
You really miss having gators around?
I do. I miss Florida. After Steve died, I actually moved to upstate New York where one of my sons lives, and I lived with them for a couple years, and then I moved back to Indiana. But if I could pick all my family and all my friends and my job in Syria, pick everybody up and move them somewhere, I might go back to Florida.
Nice.
Give us a few more months and I'll be saying I'm moving to Florida too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're coming around the bend here for the winter weather in good old Indiana.
Yeah.
So
It's horrible.
So tell me, what was your most memorable real estate transaction that you've done in anything, flipping, rentals, whatever you've done? What's your most memorable one? Good, bad, or indifferent?
Okay, so I would say the best flip that we ever did was when we've always had boats of some kind, sailboats. We've always had boats. So I got so tired of trailing boats. So finally one summer I said to my husband, I'm tired of doing this. Let's find a lake place. So we found a lake place, and I am not kidding when I say, and you guys as an investor now, I look back and I think, well, it just was in my blood. The grass was up to here, and it was in really bad shape, but the bones were good. And so we bought that. We added on a big, in Florida we would call it a lanai, but we added on a big screened room on the front right off of the water, and we kept it until the boys got into high school, and then they didn't want to go to the lake with mom and dad anymore, so we sold it. We more than tripled our money. I mean, that was, again, it goes back to house hacking.
Yeah.
I always try to buy homes that I know that I can put some money into it and then really make some good money after. I just did the same thing downtown Greenwood. Mm-hmm. The house that I sold in February, I bought in 2016.
Oh, you're talking about this year?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and I lived in it while we rehabbed it. And it gets hard at times.
Yeah.
But the money that I think I netted $35,000 on a little tiny
Congratulations.
2-bedroom.
Really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah.
And do you run numbers? Did you run numbers then, and did you run numbers on this house also?
Always.
Okay.
Always. I think if you love this industry isn't a career. It isn't a job. It's a passion.
Yeah.
Dave Short said something to me one time when I first met him, is that as long as we always try to be problem solvers for the homeowners and the people who have houses that are in distress, we will always love our jobs. And that's right. And that's how I've always looked at every house. Either the house was distressed or the owner was distressed, and I saw opportunities. We actually had a meeting here yesterday, and I said, and we were talking about mold, and I said, mold's one of my favorites. I love to find houses with mold because most people are afraid of them.
Yeah.
Like termites, they're afraid of termites.
It's an opportunity.
Those are easy fixes.
Yeah. Right, yeah. That's what I first learned when I got into flipping houses, was that you want to look for the fire damage homes. You want to look for the termites and the mold and stuff like that. That's calling my name. Foundation issues, yeah, bring me all those problems, because I'll be able to get those for a lot cheaper on the dollar.
Yes, you sure can.
Yeah.
And so that was your best. What was your worst experience as an investor?
Well, I hate to admit it, but when I first moved back to Indiana, which was about just over 4 years ago, I started working with an investor out of Canada. And it was a wonderful relationship. We did several houses, but I did not know, it never even dawned on me that Indianapolis has a flood zone. So we bought a house from a wholesaler, and because it wasn't listed through MLS, it didn't indicate that it was in a flood zone. Shame on me, didn't think to ask. And we struggled with that property.
Oh, wow.
We made money, but not much. Getting it insured. I mean, just all of the things that come with buying a house in a flood zone. So now when I'm counseling people, I always say check, because you'll be amazed what you're going to find if you really check into it.
And, I find it funny how there's a lot of great educators out there that teach real estate and teach all these little things, but when it comes down to it, there's no one book that says every single thing. It's like experience far outweighs whatever anybody can put in front of you. And I think the experiences that the SIREA members share with other members during your main meetings and during the subgroups and during the extra classes that you offer are invaluable, because we're all learning from each other's mistakes. I mean, I've made plenty of mistakes in real estate. I've had a couple of jobs I can think off the top of my head where I've lost money on flips because I made the mistakes. And so
we all do.
Yeah.
It's just part of the industry.
If anybody says they haven't lost money in real estate, they're probably lying to you.
Yeah.
Because I think everybody's lost money.
I don't know anyone, even the people who are now the leaders.
Yeah.
They will, if they're honest, they'll say that they've lost money. And it actually makes me feel better to know it's not just me.
Yeah. Well, mine happened on my first couple of deals. So,
but you learned.
Well, that's what I think where my perseverance kicks in, is that I didn't want to give up. And it's like, I'm not going to let that beat me down, because there's other mentors that I have that said, Justin, I lost all my money 3 times before I made money. And they're well in their prime in investing right now. So, it's how you learn. You can't give up.
Can't give
up.
If
you're passionate about it, you got to look forward and just keep moving forward with it. So, super. Let's get into SIREA. I mean, I kind of talked a little bit about it. What kind of questions do you have for Vickie and about SIREA? And what do we want to tell our audience here?
Yeah, why don't you tell everybody a little bit more about SIREA, the membership, how it's grown significantly under Vickie's leadership. So she's done a tremendous job here in Indy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's easy to grow a market if you are, it's easy to grow a club or a business if you are in a good market. So I don't want to underplay what a phenomenal place it is to do real estate in Indianapolis. The other thing that I can't emphasize enough is if you answer your darn phone.
Yeah.
Think of... Yeah. Anytime I need to email or phone either one of you, you pick up. Look at how your businesses have grown. The people who are struggling in business, they don't have answering services, or they don't pick up their phone, and maybe they can't. I'm just trying to share that I think those are the 2 biggest things that can impact anyone's business. The other thing, though, as far as SIREA is concerned, we're very blessed. If you think about it, we now have 877 members.
Wow.
I know.
That's a lot.
I know. And we have 54 members who are businesses like yours who specialize in doing business with real estate investors. And we vet all of our all of our vendor sponsors. I don't know if everyone realizes that, but anyone that wants to be a vendor with SIREA, we do a background check. We check the Attorney General website. We want to be able to say to our members, we've checked and done the best we can do to find out if it's somebody we would do business with. So that does set us apart. Most organizations in our industry do not do that. We also charge for our membership. But we're super cheap. It's $199 a year. You get to go to the main meeting every month where we have different speakers or panels. Both of you have been on panels and done speaking. We have, starting in October, we have the Masters meeting. So the main meeting, which is the first Thursday of the month, is geared toward everyone at any level. We try to have speakers that can help. The meeting that is going to be on the second Tuesday of the month is going to be geared toward people that are a little more experienced. There's lots of help out there for beginners. There's lots of help out there for very experienced people like you guys. It's those people that are doing 2 to 3 deals a month or 5 to 10 deals a year. They're the ones who need a little more help. So we are gearing our entire other set of meetings toward people like that. So, and as a member, you get to go to both of those for free. And then we have 11 subgroups or affiliate, or not affiliate, but meetups. And those are included. One is on Airbnb. One is on just standard landlording. One is on rehabbing. We just started a new one, which is a real deal walkthrough.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and it's a buy and hold walkthrough. So that it's actually Sterling Davis who sits on our board of directors. He's running it, and it is it's going to be 2 hours where you see why did they buy this property, why did they not buy this a different property, and he's walking everyone who goes through the entire deal. But those are just the classes. The networking, like you guys met through Syria.
Yeah,
we did.
We met at the. I think we talked about this on one of the episodes, but it was at the
Wire.
Wire meeting. It was, I think, it was your very first day or your very first chance to go to a Syria function. I happened to be there speaking because I think it was Caroline at the time that was running the meetup and asked me to talk to the women in the group about note investing. And so I was like, oh yeah, sure, that'll be great. And then I met you and I met a couple other people that I'm still actually doing ventures with and partnerships with on just certain ways to educate and specifically notes. But yeah, I mean, we definitely met through that, and it's been a real good friendship and relationship ever since then, because we've bounced referrals off each other back and forth all the time. So that was one of our main things on the last episode was about the accounting.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, and WIRE, just so you know, stands for Women in Real Estate Investing. So we have a special group just for that.
Yeah.
So many acronyms, I forget to spell them out. So.
Well, women have different challenges.
Yeah.
I laughingly say that if you're working with a male general contractor, more times than not, and I hate to generalize, but they will look at me and think I know nothing. Well, I've probably flipped more houses than they have. So, you know, it's those kinds of things that we women face that we talk about at WIRE. So, but back to what does Syria do? The networking is huge, and the collaborating. It's a phenomenal place. I get people who call me all the time saying, I need a coach. Well, really, all you need to do is start going to Syria subgroups, go to the meetings, find out who you're comfortable with, learn who the real players are, and you will find somebody who's willing to take you under their wing. It's just you have to have the initiative, and it goes back to what you said, Justin. You have to have the fortitude to keep going when it gets hard, just like with the lady that you experienced this week who didn't want to leave your properties. You could have just easily said, oh, well. But it's those of us who have that fortitude to keep going forward.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's very true.
So, Vickie, you have another organization that you kind of started to steamroll, I think it was 2 years ago, with Indiana State RIA.
Yes.
And so tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I don't know where to start. It's this takes us back to what we were talking about before. Yeah. People in our industry don't realize how much power we have. And we have, because we've never banded together. So actually 2.5 years ago, there were about 12 or 13 of us from around the state who got together over at ORIA, Ohio's state RIA. And we got together there and we decided, we had a big open meeting. There were maybe 30 people who showed up. And we decided we wanted to start a state RIA for Indiana. And so there were 12 or so of us, I can't remember how many, who all said, well, we'll be on the committee. And so we had our first meeting, and by then we were down to about 10 people. Yeah. And then we continued to have meetings to form our mission statement and do our bylaws and all those things, because it's a 501c6 nonprofit trade organization. Yeah. And it continued to whittle down to, I think, before you came on board, Elizabeth, there were 6 people. Mm-hmm. And so Elizabeth now sits on the board, and we have
Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm so grateful. The problem with having a board of directors of all volunteers is that we all have day jobs. Yeah. So you can only get work done for Indiana State when you can, because your day job that actually pays your bills, that has to be your priority. So we haven't moved along as quickly as we can. However, one of the best things we ever did was to hire Jeff Jenks as the attorney and the legislator for Indiana State. He came on board about a year ago, or maybe a little bit longer. But he and Tim Hawkins from his office started working on behalf of Indiana State and on behalf of some of the people down in the Bargersville market, because up until April 25th of this year, it was legal in the state of Indiana for a town who owns their own municipalities, for that town to hold the landlords financially responsible for tenants who didn't pay their utility bills. That was legal. And so in Bargersville, and I'm not going to name all the other cities because I don't want to misstate, but in 15 cities in Indiana, that's what was happening.
Wow.
So our landlords, and all of us who know anything about landlording, we all know that you run on very slim margins anyway. They were being hit with $400, $1,800, $2,800 past utility bills for people that maybe haven't even lived there for 6 months to a year.
Wow.
So it was brought to the attention of Marcia and the people down in Bargersville. They got a hold of Jeff Jenks. Jeff got a hold of us because he was already part of us, but he brought it in front of the board. And we are very happy to say that in this past Indiana legislative session, we got HB 1347 passed, which makes that no longer legal.
Nice.
Yes.
Awesome.
We also were instrumental in helping to get a land contract bill stopped in committee. Now that will be back, but one of the things that bill did was to limit how many land contracts an investor could hold. Well, if you're an investor and you're helping people, I can't speak today, but if you are somebody, see how excited I get about this? People who buy houses on land contracts, they buy on land contracts for a reason. Either they can't get a loan or they don't have the money to get a loan through a traditional. So again, we are problem solvers for these people. When you start limiting how many of those people we can help, then that's wrong.
Absolutely. And
so that's the passion behind Indiana State RIA. And we have a conference every January, and Elizabeth is helping with that. And we are always fundraising. We ran out of money. Last month or the month before? Mm-hmm. 100% of our profits goes toward lobbying and public relations. Yeah. None of it goes to any of us. So, aren't you glad you asked about that?
Well, I think it's important to get it out there and for people to know that we're hustling. I mean, you are hustling. I'm not going to say we. You are the one that's out there every day. You're the one making all the phone calls. And I remember, there's no way that Cyria specifically wouldn't be as big as it is today if it wasn't for you and your passion, your dedication, and the long hours and the long weekends and all the events that you do. I mean, this lady is a hustler, and we are very honored to be a part of the organization that you helped build. I couldn't say more nicer things about you. I just wish I had more words to articulate, but I just can't come up with all of them right now. But
there are a lot of people working for the benefit of Cyria, and one of my downfalls is that I didn't know how to reach out to people for help. Yeah. A lot of us who are entrepreneurs, we want it done our way.
Yeah.
We are control freaks. And so for the first couple years that I ran Cyria, I didn't really want anyone else helping because I knew if I did it, it would be done my way.
Yeah.
It's not always the right way, but it's my way. And then about a year ago, finally someone got through to me that I had to get some help because we were now too big.
Yeah.
But finding people who can help us is, that's its own challenge all by itself. Yeah. It's like finding a good contractor. We know they're out there. We just can't seem to find them.
Yeah.
It does make a difference. Can you speak, Vickie? What's the number that we're one of only 5 state RIAs?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've never verified that number. That number actually came from, I think Realty did some research. I can't remember exactly who did.
Okay.
Think Realty is a large sponsor of Indiana State. But I believe there are 5 other states in the United States that have statewide RIAs, like Indiana State RIA, that have actually been formed and are getting stuff done. There are other states that have tried. There are other states that have beginning RIAs or beginning groups, but we actually have gotten it to the point where we're actually accomplishing something, and there are only 5 of us out there. So
It's amazing.
yeah, it says a lot for being a Hoosier.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
right.
Oh, yeah.
Even you Michigan people.
Vickie, I'm sure we can have 2 or 3 more episodes very easily talking about how great the SciRIA organization is and Indiana State RIA and other questions that we want to ask. But we're like getting to the point where we're out of time today. And
Oh, wow. That went fast.
It does go fast when you're on the Super E&J podcast. So I thank you very much for being on this interview. And sort of some closing thoughts from me is that last episode, Super E issued out kind of a challenge about keep silencing your devices and stuff. And I was telling her how I was having some challenges, like, okay, I can silence my phone, but my apps on my computer, but I couldn't silence my watch going off because I have an Apple Watch. And she goes, well, you can mute that, you know that? And I was like, oh, okay. So started trying that, and so it's come to where a consistent, almost every hour, every day, I've been silencing it, and I'm like far more productive. So I did the challenge. So I encourage you to do that as well at some point. I want to start off once a week trying to do it, and then just kind of build yourself up to maybe half hour every day or something. But you get a lot done when you just don't have those distractions and you can focus on those tasks. So
Makes sense.
Thanks for issuing that challenge out there.
You're welcome.
So do you have any closing thoughts for today's episode?
Just thanks again to Vickie to letting new people have a chance to flourish and for the support. So thank you. And thanks for all you do for all of us here in Central Indiana.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me today. This was fun.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, that's it for episode 5 of the Super E&J podcast. We'll see y'all next time.
Thank you. Bye.